From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. The ancient Romans are known for military strength and political complexity, but the empire also developed a public sanitation system. The Romans built public latrines or toilets with many seats and washing areas. They also brought in fresh drinking water and warm water for cleaning. They even had laws to keep the towns free of human and other waste. But new archaeological research shows that baths and public toilets with washing areas did not lower disease rates. In fact, some diseases slowly increased compared to the period just before Roman rule of Europe. Piers Mitchell is with the Archaeology and Anthropology Department of Cambridge University in England. He led the new research. The findings suggest that Roman toilets, washing areas, and sanitation laws had no clear benefit to public health. Mitchell gathered evidence of insects in ancient latrines and human burials. He also examined combs and cloth from archaeological digs across the Roman Empire. Although the Romans were known for regular bathing, Mitchell found lice and fleas were just as widespread as in earlier times. So, why did the Roman development of sanitation systems fail? Mitchell says it may have been the warm waters of the bathhouses that people shared. The waters were often not changed, and scum or a layer of human dirt would float on the top of the bathing water. He says there is an upside. It seems that while Roman sanitation may not have made people any healthier, they probably would have smelled better. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. The International Red Cross movement grew out of a major battle in the unification of Italy. The Battle of Solferino took place 150 years ago in June of 1859. Volunteers from Red Cross and Red Crescent societies around the world gathered in Solferino to mark the anniversary. About 8,000 people marched in a torchlit event called a fiaccolata. They followed in the footsteps of those who took injured soldiers from Solferino to the nearest village, Castiglione. Hannington Segrinia, National Youth President of the Ugandan Red Cross Society, says the visit made him want to work harder to help people. He said he is going back to Uganda to work for humanity. He said when young people come together, they have the possibility of doing whatever it takes to make the world a better place. In the battle, Allied French and Sardinian troops defeated the Austrian army. Around 6,000 men were killed and more than 30,000 were wounded. Yet, says Swiss historian François Bougnon, the battle lasted only 12 hours. He says a Swiss businessman named Henri Dunant was horrified by what he saw. Thousands of wounded were brought to the next town of Castiglione. There was almost no medical assistance. Mr. Dunant saw thousands of men suffering from very deep wounds and left to die without any real assistance. Mr. Bougnon says Henri Dunant quickly took action. The businessman got local women to provide food and water. He also got them to dress the wounds of soldiers without concern for their nationality. Mr. Dunant later wrote a book called A Memory of Solferino. In it, he launched two ideas. One was the idea of voluntary relief societies to provide assistance to the wounded or other people. This led to the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. The second idea was a treaty protecting the wounded and medical personnel on the field of battle. This, explains historian François Bougnon, is the origin of the Geneva Conventions. Stephen Ryan is the communications officer for youth and volunteers at the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. He says it is important to get young people involved in volunteer work at an early age. He says young people need to be given the chance to feel like they are making a difference in the world. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, blocks airflow through the lungs. It makes breathing difficult. The leading cause is cigarette smoking. Experts at the National Institutes of Health in the United States say the damage to the lungs cannot be repaired, and there is no cure. Don DeMeo is an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School in Boston, Massachusetts. Dr. DeMeo says by 2020, COPD will likely be the third leading cause of death across the world. COPD is a new name for emphysema and chronic bronchitis. These are the two most common forms of the disease. Many people with COPD have both of them, and Dr. DeMeo says more women than men now die from the disease. She is the lead author of a study by a team from Harvard's Brigham and Women's Hospital and the University of Bergen in Norway. The new study adds to findings that women may be more at risk than men for the damaging effects of smoking. The team examined results from a Norwegian study of 954 people with COPD. Inga Cecilia Sorheim co-authored the team's findings. Dr. Sorheim says they show that women suffered the same severity of COPD as men, But by comparison, the female smokers were younger and had smoked a lot less. The team also looked at two groups among the people in the study. These were people under the age of 60 and those who had smoked for less than 20 years. In both cases, women had more severe COPD and a greater loss of lung function than men. Dr. DeMeo says some of the people in the study did not smoke much, but still developed severe lung disease. She said, many people underestimate the health risks of their own cigarette smoking. They think that a few cigarettes every day are harmless. But clearly, there is no such thing as a safe level of cigarette smoke exposure. And our findings suggest that this is especially true for women. Dr. Sorheim says there are several possible explanations why women may be more at risk from the effects of cigarette smoke than men. Women have smaller airways, she says, so each cigarette may do more harm. Also, there are differences between males and females in the way the body processes cigarette smoke. And she says genes and hormones could also play an important part. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report. This is the VOA Special English Health Report. The United States government might place new restrictions on a commonly used painkiller. Taking too much acetaminophen can cause liver damage and even death. In July, a group of experts advised the Food and Drug Administration that the drug needs more controls and better directions for use. Acetaminophen, also called paracetamol, is found in Tylenol, Excedrin, and other products that do not require a doctor's prescription. These products are used for pain, fever, colds, and sleeplessness. Their easy availability is part of the problem. People can accidentally take too much acetaminophen if they take several medicines that all contain it. The experts recommended reducing the largest non-prescription dose of acetaminophen from 1,000 milligrams. They said that is too much. They said adults should not take more than 650 milligrams at a time. The experts also said people should take less than 4,000 milligrams of acetaminophen in a single day. Acetaminophen overdose is a leading cause of liver damage in the United States. Researchers say it resulted in 56,000 emergency room visits a year during the 1990s. There were almost 460 deaths a year from liver failure. The committee was especially concerned about prescription drugs that combine acetaminophen with stronger painkillers. The experts recommended banning combination drugs like Percocet and Vicodin. Still, the experts were divided in their votes. The agency is not required to follow the advice of its committees, but generally does. Acetaminophen is valued as a pain and fever reducer for adults and children. It does not cause stomach problems or bleeding like aspirin, ibuprofen, and some other competing drugs can. But experts say taking even small amounts over the recommended dose can cause liver damage. Some people suffer harm from smaller amounts than others. Alcohol use with acetaminophen is especially bad for the liver. Signs of liver injury include nausea, vomiting, and a lack of energy. But these may not develop for 2 or 3 days after an overdose, too late to prevent damage. People should ask a health professional about drug combinations that could be harmful. And they should make sure they know what is in the medicines they take and how much of each drug is safe to take. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. Cardiovascular disease is the world's leading cause of death. It includes heart attack, stroke, and high blood pressure. Over the years, researchers have identified several substances in the blood that can serve as what they call cardiac biomarkers. These are used to measure the presence and development of cardiovascular disease. Researchers have increasingly tried to use these biomarkers to identify people who are at high risk of developing heart disease. But a new study has found that they offer little help in this way. A team from Massachusetts General Hospital and Sweden's Lund University studied how effective the biomarkers are as predictors. Thomas Wang at the Mass General Heart Center was the senior author of the study. Dr. Wang said that even after measuring those additional biomarkers, they were not able to fully understand who was more likely to develop heart disease. Dr. Wang says they did identify some combinations of biomarkers that improved predictions of heart attacks and strokes. He said it is possible that in certain patients, measuring these biomarkers would be helpful. But for the majority of patients, having the information of the biomarker probably would not make a difference. Dr. Wang hopes future research will discover biomarkers that are better able to predict the risk of cardiovascular disease. But for now, he says, doctors should depend on traditional risk factors. These include a history of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, tobacco use, diabetes, obesity, physical inactivity, or poor nutrition. A separate study found no support for a theory that a biomarker called C-reactive protein causes heart disease. Earlier research suggested that the more of the protein in people's blood, the more likely they are to develop heart disease. The new study confirmed a link, but did not find evidence that the C-reactive protein causes the disease. Both studies appeared in the Journal of the American Medical Association. The World Health Organization estimates that cardiovascular disease killed 17.5 million people in 2005. That was 30% of all deaths. 8 out of 10 deaths were in low and middle income countries. At current growth rates, the WHO expects the number to reach 20 million by 2015. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. The World Health Organization declared swine flu as the first international pandemic of the century on June 11th. The WHO decided to raise its alert against the new H1N1 flu virus to the highest level after a meeting of health experts in Geneva. The announcement means that countries must keep a close watch on the virus. WHO Director General Margaret Chan said, "The world's rich and poor countries must come together to make sure no countries are left behind without help." As of June 11th, 74 countries had reported almost 30,000 cases of the H1N1 flu virus. 144 deaths were reported. A World Health Organization official, Keiji Fukuda, said the virus continued to spread in North America, and there were increasing reports from South America as well as from other southern countries. The United States has had by far the most confirmed cases. More than 13,000 were reported as of June 8th, including 27 deaths. The H1N1 outbreak began in Mexico in March. Mexico has reported more than 100 deaths. Dr. Fukuda said the public should understand what a pandemic means. It means that the spread of the virus has continued and that it has become established in at least 2 areas of the world. He said it does not mean that the severity of the situation has increased or that people are getting seriously sick at higher numbers. Dr. Fukuda, an acting assistant director general, said the WHO has been working with the member states to prepare for a pandemic. Scientists are working on vaccines to protect against the new virus. Governments have been gathering supplies of antiviral drugs. But public health officials have also had to consider the risks if the public overreacts to a pandemic declaration. Dr. Fukuda pointed out that hospitals might quickly fill with people who are worried but not especially sick. Then hospitals might not be able to care for other patients who really do need help. The last flu pandemic was in 1968, caused by the so-called Hong Kong flu. Scientists say the common name for the new disease swine flu, is misleading. The virus combines human, bird, and pig viruses, but eating meat from pigs has not been a danger. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report. For more health news, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
This is the VOA Special English Health Report. We all know that some people do not seem as emotionally strong as others when life gets difficult. But why is that? A study published in 2003 in the journal Science offered an answer. The study followed almost 850 people from birth through age 26. Researchers found that those with a short version of a certain gene were more likely to get depressed after a sad or difficult experience. They found that people with the normal length of the gene were better able to deal with problems. The gene is a transporter of serotonin, a brain chemical involved with mood and desire for food. The 2003 study captured attention among mental health professionals and popular culture. In fact, Science magazine recognized the discovery of genes for mental illness as the #2 breakthrough of the year. The winner was observations about mysteries of the universe. In June, however, other researchers published findings of a large new study. They reported finding no link between the serotonin transporter gene and the risk of depression. The findings appeared in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Neil Reisch is director of the University of California, San Francisco Institute for Human Genetics and a leader of the new study. He says the earlier study gained so much recognition it became fixed in many people's minds as true. The National Institute of Mental Health and Kaiser Permanente, Northern California, also took part in the latest study. The researchers used information from 14 studies involving more than 14,000 patients. The scientists examined the data using the same measures as the 2003 study. They found that the risk of depression was not higher among those with the shorter gene. But they also found that stressful events themselves did appear to increase the risk for depression. Neuroscientist Avshalom Caspi, then at King's College London, led the 2003 study. He is now at Duke University in North Carolina. He has criticized the new study as incomplete. He says it ignores evidence that supports the original research. Peter Zandi is a genetic researcher at Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health in Maryland. He agrees that this latest study is not the final word. He said, after many years of trying to figure out what is going on with the genetic cause of depression, we're still not there yet. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report. For more health news, go to voaspecialenglish.com.
is the VOA Special English Health Report. The United Nations is seeking to improve electronic communication for health workers in Africa. Workers in rural areas would have a better way to get training, information, and advice from doctors hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away. In 2005, the World Health Assembly passed a resolution urging countries to plan for e-health services. The idea is to look for ways to use modern information and communications technologies to strengthen health systems. The World Health Organization says Africa is behind other parts of the world in treating HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. So, the United Nations Economic and Social Council is supporting the expansion of telecommunications technology for healthcare workers. Telemedicine is another term for e-health. Steinar Pedersen is the director of the Norwegian Center for Telemedicine at the University Hospital of North Norway. Dr. Pedersen is working with the WHO. He recently met with West African health officials in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. He says the technology can provide easier access to medical specialists and make it easier for people to seek medical information themselves. Elias Sori is the Director General of Health Services in Ghana. He says e-health will offer a way to reduce the effects of health worker shortages and make it easier to train existing workers. Dr. Sori says the technology will also make it easier for doctors at Ghana's main teaching hospital to share their knowledge. Dr. Sori said this would help doctors in villages with difficult cases. They would be able to link up easily with a top doctor in the hospital to get advice. He also said that there is always new medical information, but it is not necessary for all doctors to go to the teaching hospital to be trained and increase their knowledge. He said e-health can bridge that gap, and medical education is one of the most important parts of e-health. Services must be shaped to fit each country's healthcare needs and level of technological development. Another issue is patient privacy. The hope is that health ministries will together develop policies on collecting and storing electronic health information about individuals. And that's the VOA Special English Health Report. Transcripts, MP3s, and archives of our reports can be found at voaspecialenglish.com, where you can also post comments. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Living among trees, flowers, and other plants can fill your life with beauty. And if you are a woman, it might also help you live longer. Researchers found that women who live in homes surrounded by plants have lower death rates than women who live in areas with less greenery. The Harvard University's School of Public Health reported the finding. Peter James,
is an expert there on epidemiology, or disease spread. He and his team looked at information from one of the largest and oldest investigations of women's health, the Nurses' Health Study, which began 40 years ago. It now has information on nearly 200,000 women. For the new study, the Harvard team looked at death rate records of more than 100,000 women between the years 2000 and 2008. Then they compared the women who lived among the most vegetation and plants to those who lived among the least green space. They found in that 8-year period, the women who lived among a lot of greenery had a 12% lower death rate than the other women. Researchers said women in greener areas spent more time with others, exercised more, and were exposed to less air pollution. For VOA Learning English, this is the last health report from Learning English TV. But we are not going away. We will continue to bring you videos to help you learn American English. Go to learningenglish.voanews.com to find new materials and to look for past Learning English TV reports. I'm Carla Babb. Thank you for watching and learning with VOA Learning English.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Simple bandages are easy to use. They cover and protect wounds, giving them time to heal. Now, scientists say they are developing new kinds of bandages. They have begun adding small sensors to bandages, making them more sensitive. This is the technology used in popular wearable devices, such as smart watches and fitness trackers. Scientists are also making new materials called hydrogels. Hydrogels are similar to human skin. Researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have found a way to combine these two technologies. They created a stretchy material that is similar to human tissue. The new product has wires that lie in a Z-shaped design. The wires connect to the electronic sensors and stretch easily without breaking contact to the sensors. Zhenhe Zhao teaches mechanical engineering at MIT. He says the resulting product becomes a type of smart wound dressing. It can react to changes in the skin around it. For example, Zhao says if there is a sudden increase in temperature, a command will be sent. That command can control the delivery of a drug to a special location. LED lights in the bandage could warn patients and doctors about changes in the wound. Medication can quickly spread across the bandage through tiny passages. Researchers say the new material can be used both on the skin and inside the body. but it will be some time before these smart bandages reach the hospital or drugstores. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. The United Nations says Asian children are facing health problems caused by poor nutrition. The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, and the World Health Organization produced the report. It finds some children are overweight, while others in the same country suffer from starvation. The report focuses on countries across Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand. The report finds that in most countries, there are equal amounts of overweight and starving children. For example, in Indonesia, 12% of children are overweight, the same number as those who are starving. In Thailand, it says 7% of children are starving and 11% are overweight. Southeast Asia is seen as a key economic driver for the world economy. But with economic growth comes an increase in foods and sugary drinks with low nutritional value. The report says this has caused an increase in obesity and heart disease in children. Starvation is still an issue in most countries in the region. The report says this is caused by poverty, poor nutrition, and a lack of clean water. Dorothy Foote is a nutrition expert at UNICEF. She says the lack of healthy food for children and the general population is causing a health crisis. The report calls on governments to invest in childhood nutrition policies. They say this will bring a better future for their citizens. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Researchers say they have identified a gene that can predict if you will have gray hair. The gene IRF4 was found and studied from the genetic codes of more than 6,300 people from Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, and Peru. The group included people of mixed European, Native American, and African ancestries. The IRF4 gene controls melanin production, which is responsible for the color of hair, skin, and eyes. Andres Ruiz Linares is a professor of human genetics at University College, London. He is the paper's lead author. He and his team identified a special gene found in about 15% of people with European ancestry. The people who carry this gene are more likely to have early gray hair. The researchers found that Native Americans do not carry this gene. The researchers say that gray hair is not influenced just by genetics. Stress or a terrible event can also contribute to a gray head of hair. The researchers say this study could be helpful to developers of hair care products. It could lead to treatments that may prevent or reverse the process that turns hair gray. The study also identified genes for other hair qualities. These included curly hair, beard, and eyebrow thickness. Ruiz Linares says linking genes to hair qualities is important. He says it could lead to better analysis of genetic information collected at crime scenes. The journal Nature Communications published the study. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Crisuti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. The banana is the world's most popular fruit. The United Nations lists bananas as one of the most important foods, along with rice, wheat, and corn. Now, a disease being called the Panama disease could threaten supplies. 2 years ago, the United Nations warned the disease could destroy much of the world's banana crop. Since then, things have not gotten better. New cases of disease were discovered last year in Australia. Panama disease started in Asia in the 1990s and later spread to Africa and the Middle East. World health officials worry the disease could travel to Latin America, one of the top banana producers in the world. Bananas are an important source of income and nutrients for millions of people. They are grown in 135 tropical nations. Randy Plotz is a professor at the University of Florida. He says Panama disease affects the most popular kind of banana, called the Cavendish banana. Robert Bertram is chief scientist for the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. He says USAID is organizing a worldwide effort to stop the growth of Panama disease. The disease is caused by a fungus known as TR4. In the 1960s, the same fungus killed the Gros Michel banana crop, which at that time was the most popular kind in the world. Researchers are looking for another banana to follow the Cavendish. It will have to resist disease and survive the shipping time needed to get the bananas from the trees to stores thousands of miles away. For VOA Learning English, I'm Dan Friedel.